So I think overall results were steady, so it doesn't create a scenario for any big upside or downside. However, the fact of the matter is that IT stocks, IT companies are on a slow growth path now, or hardly any growth path. Earnings growth this year actually will end up being negative, so I think there will be no earnings growth overall for FY18. And in that scenario, a stock which trades at around 20 times is not really cheap. So my guess is that the results will be taken okay by the markets. We could see a few percentage points down or up. Up will not sustain, I think, and will get sold out on. If it falls 5 to 10%, then buyers could come in. So I think that's how I see IT stocks. So they don't disrupt the market at this stage. They don't create a downside for the market, but don't contribute to the upside too.
Okay, well, 8:45. Yeah, let's get into some technical ideas.
Yeah, so Kunal, you have been optimistic on market, giving more of buy call. So I'm anticipating that you have a buy call for us.
Yes, Siddharth, right, and it's patient, and it's a buy on Tata Chemicals now. Stock managing to make yet another swing high, just about touching distance of 700 mark. The trend has been very subtle and very strong for the stock, even though it's a relatively a low beta stock as compared to a lot of the other Tata names. But I believe the chart structure is quite bullish for Tata Chemicals. So at 690.94, I think it becomes a good short-term bet to look at. 725 is a short-term target on Tata Chemicals. Stop loss to be kept at 680.
Manas, your 8:45 ideas?
See, yesterday I mentioned about Torrent Power, and since stock has given a breakout on the charts above 221, and it has made a inverse head and shoulder pattern on the intraday chart, I think stock can break its previous high and it can test 238 soon. So here one can take a long call with a stop loss of 220.
Dr. Nayan, what's your call at this point of time?
Well, I'm looking at the charts of VLS Finance, and I'm finding that it's staging a fresh breakout. Stock is trading now on a split basis at 92 levels. Very good chart situation, very good trends has been in progress over a longer term. Sector is in good demand and sought after. I think all this collectively will enable VLS to continue higher till about 120, 130 levels. So I would recommend a positional bet on VLS at the current levels of about 90 to 92, stop loss at about 81.
Well, that's a new name from you, Dr. Nayan. VLS Finance, last 1 month activity has been very high in this stock. I want to discuss some stock from derivatives perspective and some of bit of technicals into it. And first one is MCX. Now this stock has been an underperformer. We had seen that how from 1400 levels stock has been correcting. But last 1 month data has been quite positive from FNO perspective. In fact, day before correction was because of long unwinding. And last few days when stock was going up, there is strong formation of long positions. If you look at, bit of technicals also, and I would ask our experts too on this, that stock has closed above 200 DMA after, 5 months. And there is good possibility of a downward sloping trend line breakout. So this stock should be in one's radar. And the other stock which I want to discuss is probably, much discussed in last 2-3 days is PSU banks, Bank of India. Now yesterday we saw that Bank Nifty participated, some of the PSU banks also participated, but there were few names in PSU space which were under pressure, and Bank of India was one among them. We are seeing a lot of formation of short positions, and I guess the levels of 130 which have been acting as support in on few occasions, I think that would get challenged. So be a bit mindful if you are thinking that PSU banks would also participate in this up move.
Okay. Thanks for that perspective, Siddharth. Just about a few minutes to go before we hit the pre-open rates. Let's just get in some more views. Slew of earnings that came in. I know TCS as well as Innocent Bank are out of the way, Sandeep, but what's the view on Reliance Industries and what their earnings can show up?
Reliance Industries, I think the commentary will be more important than the results per se. So I think some 7-8% kind of earnings growth is expected, which they should be able to deliver. What people will be watching out, I think, for the performance of the retail arm as well as the telecom arm, Jio, and to that extent those performances and more importantly the outlook for them will be looked at by investors.
Girish, same call. Side of Reliance Industries, we've had a slew of pharma names also come out with a series of positive news when it comes to US FDA clearances. Would that translate into their numbers too? Would you get early signs of a revival for some of the large cap pharma names like Sun Pharma or Bindo?
So Reliance, we don't track the stock, but we do track OMCs. So OMCs specifically, I think this quarter should be very good. On a YOY basis, I think earnings should be very strong, upwards of 30-40% for the HPs, BPs and IOCs of the world. Largely driven by a one-off event of GRMs going up because of Hurricane Harvey's impact on the global refining capacity being shut down for a while. If you take that out of the equation, we are a little negative on the OMCs because we think that the best is behind the OMCs from a earnings growth standpoint. From here on, we think the GRMs are going to be flat. We think that the companies are going to go into a capex phase, which is going to lead to higher depreciation, higher interest costs, and therefore earnings growth is going to be tepid. So we're kind of cautious on the OMC space, but we are positive on the pharma side, though I think the positives on the pharma companies from an earnings standpoint is going to be more back-ended. It's not going to come through in the current quarter. At least that's what my analyst believes. So it's going to be more of an FY19 and FY20 story because that's when all these molecules that they filed for in the US, the effect of those are going to kind of come through. But that's an area that we've kind of been focusing on from a positive perspective. It's a contrarian call, so to speak. Where we think that there's been both a cut in earnings as well as from a P multiple standpoint, a valuation standpoint, there's been a cut. Where we think both can potentially recover over the next 2 to 3 year time frame. Because we think that the FDA compliance issues are probably transitory and over a period of time those should get sorted out. And the pricing pressure in the US on the generics is, we think, I would say it's a
Right. Girish, I'm just going to come right back to you and talk about Reliance in greater detail as well. It's going to be extremely important, the commentary from the management as to what they have to say about Reliance Jio. If market talk is to be believed, there could be some mega announcement and perhaps a new scheme as well to lure more subscribers. And this in the light of the big news from the telecom universe yesterday, wherein Tata Consumer Telecom business is now going to merge with Bharti. Bharti gets 4 million additional subscribers. So yeah, in that sense, it's going to be a little bit of an important significance. But Tanya is waiting by to tell us what else is going to make news this Friday. Tanya?
Well, Aisha, let me start with, Indiabulls Housing Finance. Remember about in 2015, the company started a new subsidiary in the UK, or rather bought over Oaknott Bank for about investment of about $100 million. Today, the news has come that the bank has received funding from 3 other investors, or 16% stake, which values Indiabulls Housing's investment at about $380 million, which is almost 3.8 times of their original investment in just about 2 years. So expect Indiabulls Housing as a stock to react positively on that front. There's also Federal Bank, which will be in focus. Big Bull Rakesh Jhunjhunwala has cut stake in the company when you compare the shareholding patterns of this quarter to last one. So the stake has been cut from about 2.18% to about 1.85% in this quarter. Also watch out for Piramal Enterprises. As ET now broke the story on 15th of September, the company has approved a rights issue of about 2,000 odd crores, as well as has approved raising about 5,000 crores via the QIP route. They're going to be issuing convertible debentures, which will be convertible into 40 equity shares. Amongst the bulk deals, there will be 2 companies in focus. Sterlite Technologies is one, wherein Serum Institute of India has bought about 4 crore shares in the company, while the seller has been the promoter itself, Aadhar Poonawalla. And lastly, watch out for Atul Auto. There's been fund action within that. So Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund has bought about 1.75 lakh shares in the company, while the seller has been Goldman Sachs Fund.
All right, thanks very much, Tanya, for taking us through those stock stories of the day. There will be enough and more to watch out for from an earnings standpoint as well, among the large caps and among the mid caps too. Like Tanya pointed out, a couple of block deals which are making waves. I want to look upon the whole metals trade, because last couple of sessions metals have been shining once again. Girish, very quickly, because we have about 3 minutes to go before we hit pre-open. What's the call on a Hindalco?
Sorry, I cannot comment on. We don't track metals in our house at this point in time.
Okay, let's talk about the big news in the telecom space. And Sandeep, have to get your views on this Bharti as well as Tata Tele tie-up. You know, while it's important to note that it makes sense for Tata Tele, this is something that Chandra has made extremely categorical in his Economic Times interview as well, that he's going to get rid of 110 companies that are not making money, prune the portfolio. But what's in it for Bharti, and what should Bharti shareholders, if there are any investors in the stock, what should they look forward to?
I think the investors in the stock should look forward to nothing actually. But from Bharti's perspective, I think it's a pretty positive deal because they get subscribers, they don't get any debt, they get additional spectrum. Although
but they also have to pay for the spectrum.
Yeah, but that payment amount is very insignificant given the size of Bharti. And my guess is they get the carry forward losses also. So if they get the carry forward losses, they get tax breaks on that, which by themselves could be very significant. And from the Tata's perspective, I think it's a very brave decision to exit because running losses is easier. Exiting at such a huge loss is the toughest decision, and I think tough decisions are being made at the Tata Group, which I think overall from the perspective of the companies which are going to remain in the Tata Group is very positive. And I think to that extent, over the next 2-3 years, I think the entire Tata Group's re-rating upward could continue.
Yeah, and from that perspective purely, what's the Tata Group, which of the Tata Group stocks would you bet?
जी क्या बात है, बहुत बहुत बधाई आपको।
सर आजकल हार्ट अटैक उम्र देख के नहीं आता सर, हार्ट अटैक आ जाता है अभी।